Good morning, all. Good morning, good morning. It's that time. It's 10 o'clock, Friday. Do you know where your heart is? Good morning, Greg and Frank. Good morning, Catherine. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good morning, Susan. Oh, John, be careful out on that bike trail. Good to see all of you. Good to see all of you. Alrighty. So we'll get started in just a few moments. I have a lovely practice plan this morning geared towards opening our hearts. And most of the practice, actually all of the practice, will be pretty much on the floor today. So if you'd like, you can take a blanket and lay it across your mat, which is what I've done. So my short side is facing this way. So my two short sides are on either end. My long side is facing the device, and I've got my blanket right across it, giving it a little warmth, cushion, padding, making it a little bit more cozy for our practice today. We'll find some coziness and warmth. And I'll go ahead and get started with the practice, with my ideas of what we'll do this morning. I'll come a little bit closer. You know, it's Thanksgiving, and gratitude is in the air, and that is a theme that you'll run into throughout the next few weeks as you go to your yoga classes, and as you maybe don't go to your yoga classes, or find it on the internet. Maybe you're going to live classes, maybe you're going to these Zoom opportunities, YouTube opportunities, and that is something amazing. That's something to be grateful for. We don't have everything that we need and we want right now. Well, we have everything we need, but we don't have everything we want. This Thanksgiving, there seems to be another theme in the air, for me at least, and that's solitude. We're being urged by the CDC to take more quiet holidays, more quiet Thanksgivings, smaller gatherings. And for many of you, that might mean being alone in your house, and there's nothing wrong with that. The Bhagavad Gita, the great Hindu epic tale, tells us that it's not about the end prize. It's not about the goal, it's about the journey. And this is part of our journey right now, to hunker down and stay home and take a quiet Thanksgiving, because it's not about us, it's about everyone. And we stay home and we take quieter holidays for the good of everyone. And there's something very strong and loving and connecting about that. And I wanted to focus today on love in action. I saw someone yesterday described the word gratitude as love in action, and that really resonated with me. And I built today's practice based on that, love in action. And what we'll do is we'll start in a yin style pose, Y-I-N, very close to earth, quiet, dark, solitude. We'll find our solitude in our first pose. So what we'll do is we lie on our backs, and here's where this mat and blanket comes in handy, because it's a little cozier and warmer. And face the short side of your mat and lie back. Take your time lying back, and maybe stretch out all your limbs and find length in your limbs. Take a few breaths and just feel what it feels like to be on the floor. And what does the rest of the room feel like as you lie here on the floor? Because there's a sense of vulnerability in lying here. So get used to that and find that sense of safety and security. Maybe take a couple of cleansing breaths to do that. Inhaling deeply with the nose and then letting it go with the mouth. And then as you're ready, bend your knees, placing the feet on the floor, and bring the feet at least hip-width distance apart, if not a little bit wider, and then let the knees come together in the middle. And pay attention to where your feet are. So if your feet are too close to your body, that really might constrict this pose. So give yourself some length in your legs so that you can find that width in the feet and in the hips. And this is a great way to settle those hips and align them. And that all starts in those feet. Oh, and I just got a little cramp. So I'm going to get rid of that and get back into it. You can keep your socks on for this, by the way. I should have mentioned that. This is called constructive rest pose. And let's stay here for about a minute. And let's put our hands on our bellies. And close the eyes if it's there for you. If not, just take your gaze downward. And focus on your breath. Focus on the inhale and then the exhale. Take a few rounds of those breaths. Notice what's going on with your breath. And as you're ready, bring that breath into the belly. So right when you inhale through the nose, direct it right into the belly and feel the belly rise up and then slowly lower back down with the exhale. And you might need a few rounds of breath to find that action. And if you can't find it, just pretend like it's there. Because if you pretend like it's there, it might manifest itself and suddenly appear. Oh, there it is, yeah. And then you can start to intensify it and take longer time with your inhale so that the belly rises up higher. And as you exhale, the belly takes more time to lower back down. So we're getting nice and grounded before we carry on for the next part of this pose. Just notice what that belly breath is doing for you. As my belly rises, I feel it in the back as well. So I feel much more connected to the earth as the belly rises up. And that makes me feel safe and secure and comfortable in my solitude here. And we'll take a few more of those belly breaths. Exaggerate it. What does it feel like? And anytime you need to change anything in your feet and your knees and your hips, you can always do that. Maybe check in on them. Is everything okay? And then we'll start to back off that belly breath. And stay with the knees together and the feet wide in your constructive rest pose. And then we'll add the second part of this. So you take your arms and you cross your arms and the elbows meet in the middle there. And then let the arms rest on your chest and look for the right shoulder blade with your left hand and the left shoulder blade with your right hand. So your hands are up kind of high. They're not down low, they're up high. And they're trying to find the back. Give yourself a nice little hug and take your time to settle in. And as you settle in, you might decide, oh, you know what? I'd rather have the other arm on top. So play around with that. Find your comfort. Find your prototype pose, the pose that's going to work for you. And then you can start to delve more deeply and explore the pose. Again, this is a yin style pose, so we hold it a little bit longer than a normal yoga pose. Normal yoga pose. And notice how it feels. Maybe close the eyes so you can really feel the sensations a little bit more acutely. And your arms might feel a little heavy on the chest, on the heart. And yeah, we're kind of putting some weight on the heart. But we're opening our heart today. So there's a sense of closing at first with this pose, but if you stick with it and settle into it and not fight it and breathe into it, you can start to feel a sense of lightness in the chest and the heart and in the arms. And you might even start to feel the elbows wanting to crash in on the face. And that's why I think this pose is called empty coat sleeves, because your arms get so light that they just want to fall behind you like empty coat sleeves. And what does that do? That opens up the upper back, the trapezius muscles, which are the upper back muscles that lead into the shoulders and in the neck. And as we open up those trapezius muscles, the shoulders release and open. The neck starts to loosen up, and our chest starts to broaden and expand, and we start to create not just space in the back of the body, but in the front of the body as well, in the chest, mainly in that heart area. And the more you do this pose, the more quickly that happens. So maybe you're not experiencing any or all of those elements. The more I do this pose, the more quickly all these effects start to take effect. So we're only going to stay at about another minute, and I encourage you to try this other times. This is a great way to start your day in bed. I just love to start my day like this because I find that sense of comfort in my solitude. I find that quiet in my body and in my breath, yet at the same time, I find that sense of openness and that sense of vulnerability and that sense of connection to not just myself, but what else is out there. And I open up my heart for the opportunities that are out there. And that makes me feel so grateful. Let's take a few more breaths here. Take that breath up into your chest area and in your upper back area. Make the breath a little bit bigger. And then as you're ready, you can start to back off that breath. Take as many as you like. And then as you're ready, we'll start to unwind from this pose and start to find a little bit more movement in the body. Right now we're finding subtle movement with the little shifting and the breath work. So we can find a little bit of movement in our stillness. And as you're ready, we'll start to unwind. So let's unwind the arms first. Let's deconstruct the pose that we just constructed. And just bring the arms out to the sides and lay them down on the floor, out to the sides, palms facing the ceiling. Just notice the feelings in your chest and your shoulders and your upper back. Are you still feeling the remnants of that pose, the effects of it? And then as you're ready, let's start to bring the hands and the arms a little bit closer and start to bring the knees apart. And then if you need to do a little bit of movement with the knees and the legs, you can do that. Maybe bring the legs into the chest for some Apanasana action. Wind relief pose. Start to wake up those hips and stretch out those muscles and the legs. Maybe extend the legs up to the ceiling for a few breaths and feel those hamstrings in the back lengthening, the calf muscles. Move the feet about. And then when you're ready, let's make our way to our bellies. So simply roll to one side and flip over. And you can still keep your blanket down. Again, the blanket can be here for the whole time because we don't really need much traction in the feet. So we'll do a Cobra series. Nice classic way to open up our hearts and create chest space and expansiveness, creating more room for our heart, tapping into that love and action, our gratitude. So to prepare the body, most people like to have the legs pretty close together. You can have them slightly apart, but I find that my Cobras are much more stable if my legs are together and really active. And so I'm pressing into the floor with the legs, I'm pressing into the floor with the belly, and then I put my hands under my shoulders, and then I slide them back so they're more in line with the tops of my ribs. And I make sure my elbows are snuggled in. Snuggling, that's another key word, theme of our practice today. You don't want those arms out because that puts pressure on your wrists and also robs you of an opportunity to build core muscle. So, as you're ready, we'll press into the floor with the legs, the belly, keep the arms snuggled in, and use that power to lift our hearts. And keeping the shoulders soft as the heart is lifted. And then whenever you're ready, you can lower your heart, one vertebra at a time, nice and slow. And we're starting really quiet. We don't really need to go up that high. And let's do these dynamically. Meaning as we inhale, we'll lift up into our Cobra. Again, it can be really tiny. And as we exhale, lower back down. And we'll keep going for about a minute or so. So whenever you need to rest, just take a rest. And lie back down and do whatever you need to do. And then when you're ready, you can regroup and reconnect with your Cobra prototype base pose. And then start to lift that heart as you're ready. And if you'd like, you can do them dynamically, meaning you can lift up with the inhale and lower back down with the exhale. That's a really nice way to do it. So if stillness is tough for you and you need to keep some movement, try that method. Inhaling, lifting your heart, exhale, lowering your heart. If you want a little bit more vigor, you can start to lengthen your inhales, lengthening your lifting, and lengthening your exhales, lengthening your lowering down. And anytime you want, you can always come up and stay up. Feel free to do that. And notice what's going on with your head. Try to keep your head still. So this is not about arching our neck and head. This is about arching our entire spine from the tailbone all the way up into the cervical spine, the neck. So it's not about lifting and looking about with your head. It's not about going up and down with your head. It's about finding that arch with your spine. And we'll do a few more of these, and if you want even more vigor, you're welcome to turn these into locusts and bring your hands to the back and also arc your legs up off the floor and find a nice arc continuing from the tailbone down into the legs. Takes a little bit more effort, but it also teaches you to use the legs more in your Cobra. So I encourage you to try a few of those and really tap into that leg strength and notice how that leg strength can help you when the legs are down in your Cobra self. So let's do about 10 more breaths. 10 more breaths. Maybe you're going back and forth Maybe you're staying still in a cobra. Maybe you've got your locust game on. Notice if you can lift your heart a little bit more and relax your shoulders and increase the space between your ears and your shoulders. And notice how that can help expand that chest and heart area. And then whenever you're ready, we'll use an exhale to slowly come back down one vertebra at a time. So we control our exit so as not to create any injuries or soreness. Let's go into crocodile pose. Bring the hands under the forehead, stack them, and bring your feet wide and shuffle your hips from side to side. And when you're ready, come back to stillness and maybe pick the feet up and windshield wiper your feet from side to side. Nice little way to release the core muscles, the muscles in the torso, not just the belly, but the chest, the lower back, the mid back, and even the rib muscles, the intercostals. Just settle in and find a few quiet belly breaths in your crocodile pose. And feel the belly press up against the floor as you inhale and come back in towards the body as you exhale. And there's something very comforting and quieting about that. And as you find quiet and comfort in your solitude, you might be more likely to share with others and tap into your sense of compassion, which also goes hand in hand with our gratitude. And then as you're ready, let's go ahead and bring the hands back under the shoulders and press into the floor with the belly and the legs and come up into a table pose. And as we come to table pose, you may want to have a second blanket, or if you only have one blanket, you can take the blanket you're on and fold it up. You might not need any support for this. I thought we would end with a flying swan. Oh, excuse me. Sleeping swan. I'm always calling it a flying swan. It's a sleeping swan. You know, and I'm just gonna go from flying to sleeping. I'm just gonna stick with it. All right, so this is another classic yin style pose. What we do is we come into our table pose, and I've got the blanket on the left side because I'm going to use my left side first. That's the side that's facing you. And as you come into table, bring your left knee towards your left hand. And then start to straighten your right leg out behind you. And as you do that, straighten out your left foot a little bit. It doesn't have to come very far. So my left foot is coming away from my body. So it's not like here, it's coming out like that. And if you have a sore knee, you can keep the foot under your bum. So if you have a little bit more pliability in your knee, you can bring that foot back. And you stretch out that leg, and you have your hands in the front. And this is a lot like pigeon pose, but it's not quite as strenuous because what we do, once we're here, we then bring that hip down to the floor. So my left hip is flexing to bend this knee, and then I bring it down on the floor. And again, figure out what you want to do with that foot in the front. And having a blanket here can be really helpful. You might want to double it, you know. And this is the flying swan part, where you're lifted and your heart is lifted and your shoulders relax. Elbows, relax those shoulders and elbows as you press into the floor with the hands, and find that stability and security in your flying swan pose. And you can stay here if you like, or you can come down and turn your flying swan into sleeping swan. which is what the pose really is all about, coming down. And you can do that in stages. So I come down on my Sphinx arms, which means my forearms are on the floor, and I find stability in my pose here. Heart is still lifted, even though I've come down a little bit. So I want to find that space in my upper back, those wide trapezius muscles that we opened up in the very beginning. And then as you're ready, you can come all the way down. And if you like any one of these stages, you can stay there. But as you become a little bit more flexible, you might be able to come all the way down and take a little nap in your solitude, in your sleeping swan self. And as you find your way into whatever position you pick, make sure that you visit all the different foundation points where the body is touching down on the ground. And that can give you a real sense of security and safety. Like pressing the knee of my back leg, pressing the front knee of my bent knee that's front. Press into the floor, press into the fingertips, the elbows. And take a few nice deep breaths. Make sure that you at some point focus on what's going on with your breathing in your pose and see if expanding your breath might expand the pose, or vice versa. Maybe the pose can somehow help you to expand your breath. And as you expand your breath, are you expanding your chest, your heart area, your gratitude area, your love in action? And then as you're ready, you can start to find those foundation points. Be grateful that they're there for you. Show some gratitude to the earth, your body, your know-how, the cues that I keep repeating ad nauseum sometimes over and over and over. And come on up and bring that front foot forward, and then you end up in a letter 4, number 4. And we don't have a lot of time, so I wanted to take us down into a forward fold. We'll do a little bit of that, but we won't stay as long as I had planned. So take just a few moments to find your number 4. And the knee that's bent was the front knee. When we did that pose, it's still the bent knee. You can always put that foot on top of your leg, or you can put it underneath that straight leg. And the hands can be out on the sides, and that helps me lift my heart and open my chest and expand my shoulders and my upper back, my trapezius muscles. So I find that expansiveness before I start to come down. So my heart is open and lifted as I bring it down towards the floor. And that's a bit of a paradox. Heart is lifting as it's lowering. Can you find that opposite action in your body? Take your time, and as you come down, you can keep the hands to the sides. That helps me find that expansiveness, but you're always welcome to bring the hands to the front if that's more comfortable for you. And you can keep this knee bent if that's screaming at you. Both knees. You can decrease the angle or put a little bit of angle in it, depending on what the leg is doing to bring relief to those knees. And then when you're ready, press into those foundation points. So I'm pressing into the floor with this heel. I'm pressing into the floor with my hands and my sits bones. And I'm using my entire body to lift me up. Not asking my lower back to do all the work. I'm asking my whole body to participate. Showing some love and respect for my body, and gratitude for the knowledge that when I turn all that on, that protects myself. And there's something very empowering and very comforting about that. So let's do the other side. I'm going to turn to face you so that my right leg is facing you, because I will be doing my right hip now. So we do table. We bring the right knee up to the right hand, and you do whatever you want with that lower part of your leg as you straighten your left leg out behind you. And you can keep that left knee, I mean, if you need to bend that left leg a little bit, it doesn't have to be completely straight. Do what your knees need, okay? So your knees should not be screaming at you. If they are, you need to change something. So listen to those messages. And find your flying swan first. And remember to find those foundation points that are good and strong and stable, so that you can lift your heart without a sense of angst, without a sense of strain. Soften the shoulders and the elbows and the face as you do that. Maybe even soften your eyes and your forehead. And when you've got that down, pat, perhaps you can come back down further. And we'll turn our flying swan into more of a sleeping swan. And each time you go down a little bit further, you know, you might go down in 3 stages, 2 stages, 4 stages. You decide. And just make sure you pay attention to the foundation points of each stage of the game. Keep things as even and as symmetrical as possible, even though you're in this asymmetrical position. Can you find that balance in your body? And in your breath, maybe your breath balance can help you find the skeletal balance. And like any yin style pose, when we are good and settled, we want to take some time to visit the breath and see how the breath is enhancing the pose. Or vice versa. And then when you're ready, wherever you are, whatever stage of swan you're in, press into those foundation points. Press into the earth. Use that earth energy and your connection to the earth energy to bring you up safely. And as you come up, kind of lean back on that hip, and then you bring the back leg forward, and settle in. And that blanket can be right there for your bones, so you can just like slip right over, and there it is. And decrease the angle of your knee if you need it, the bent knee, and maybe increase the angle of the straight leg, of the straight knee. So decrease and increase those knees as you need them, and find that comfort, and see if you can find evenness in your sits bones. That's really important. And then as you're ready, lift your heart and find those foundation points and start to slowly but surely fold forward, keeping your heart lifted and expanded as you lower it, and keeping the neck soft. I just caught myself looking up too much, so I'm going to back off that neck tension and let my neck relax a little bit more as I come down. And as you land, just observe where you land. Don't critique it. Don't give yourself any labor or grief for where you've landed. Where you've landed is where you've landed. Remember, it's the journey. It's did you pay attention? Did you do everything you needed to do to find your comfort? Did you go too far? Are you not ready? You know, all these things are part of our yogic journey. And be careful to recognize your limitations and be grateful for them, because those limitations can give you huge lessons. I've come back up. We can extend that leg out and shake out the legs. And I've gone a few moments over, but I'm still going to take just a couple more moments because I really want to end with this nice pose. We'll lie back, take your time, make sure you have room on either side, lie back, snuggle in, and bring your arms nice and wide like we did in the very beginning, shoulder height, palms facing the floor, and then bring your feet as wide as the corners of your mat. This is a vulnerable position. I call it, it's a reclining star, but it reminds me of that Da Vinci drawing. So as you lie here, find those long lines in your body, the spine, the arms, the legs, and think about the wide lines of your body. And then when you're ready, as you inhale, bring that breath right into your heart area, and as you exhale, send the breath down the spine, down the arms, down the legs. So inhale into your heart area and exhale out from your heart area, down those long lines, the spine, the arms, the legs. Do that several times and notice, does that help you start to organize the body yet relax the body at the same time? Structure, but release into that structure. And then as you're ready, you can back off of that. And just notice how you feel. And release any tension you might have in the feet and the hands, and start to wriggle about the fingers, the toes, the hands, and the feet. And as you're ready, bend the knees, draw the belly in, bring the arms overhead, and roll to one side. And stay there for a breath or two. Enjoy this time lying here on your side, because then you're more likely to actually come up from your side. And coming up from your side is much less unsettling and jarring to your body and to your mind. We want to come up with that sense of ease and quiet that we just instilled in our bodies. And as you're ready, place your hands on your heart. Close the eyes and lift the heart with the hands on the heart. And make as much space between the ears and the shoulders. And take a few more deep breaths. Nice long inhales and nice long exhales. And increase the distance that the distance of the path that the breath takes as it comes into the body and back out of the body, like we just did, but a little bit harder to do because our joints are bent. Find that distance in your breath while your hands are on your heart. And as you're ready, let's bring our hands to heart center. Pretty easy because they're right there. So just bring your hands together. Jali Mudra. Giving thanks and showing gratitude for this time together. Time with yourselves. And the time with Sun and Moon and Zoom. And I'd like to give a shout out to Jennifer O'Sullivan, who taught me that first pose, empty coat sleeves. I think of you often because of that pose. And that's the whole meaning of Namaste. So I hope you enjoyed that little practice. And remember, you can come back to it anytime and revisit it anytime you're feeling a little sad and a little closed off. It's okay to close up sometimes, but it's also, you want to counteract that with the sense of opening. And I hope that that practice gave you that opportunity to explore those ideas. Thank you so very much. I'm going to come forward because I'm blind as a bat, even though I've got my glasses on. Oh, and the message disappeared. It might have been Catherine or Susan. Give a shout out if you're here. Let me know. I hope you all have a great, happy, safe Thanksgiving. And it's okay. That's going to be a little more quiet. It's okay. There are other things that we can do instead. Read and take a walk. And yes. Oh, great. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Jane. Good to see you. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Oh, have a great weekend, all. Enjoy this glorious weather. Breathe easily.